The first time Clara whispered, "Don't leave yet," Daniel thought she was afraid of being alone. Then he noticed the framed photograph trembling in her hands, the old family picture missing one face, and suddenly understood that fixing a broken sink was the smallest thing he had been asked to do that night. Some doors reopen for reasons we never expect. Daniel had spent 3 years learning how to live without Emma, the woman he once believed he would marry. He had avoided her neighborhood, ignored mutual friends, and taught himself that some memories were better left untouched. But when Emma's younger sister Clara called on a rainy Thursday and said her kitchen sink was flooding, he went anyway. He told himself it was only a favor. By midnight, he would discover that Clara had not called him because of plumbing. She had called because a family secret had been quietly waiting for him to return. Before we begin, if you enjoy emotional and inspiring stories like this, make sure to support the channel by liking this video, subscribing, and sharing your thoughts in the comments. Your support helps us bring more powerful stories of kindness, hope, and humanity. Daniel nearly ignored the number when his phone rang. Clara never called him directly. During the years he and Emma were together, she had mostly communicated through sarcastic text messages and stolen fries whenever they met for dinner. Even after the breakup, her occasional messages had been brief, "Happy birthday. Hope work is good." Nothing that required an answer. "Daniel," she said when he picked up. "Clara. My sink is trying to destroy my apartment." Despite himself, he smiled. "That sounds serious." "It is serious. There's water everywhere, and the maintenance guy won't come until morning. Call a plumber." "I did. The emergency fee is ridiculous." Daniel hesitated. Then Clara became quiet. "I wouldn't ask if I had anyone else." That was the sentence that made him reach for his keys. Rain followed him across town, drumming against the windshield while streetlights blurred over the wet pavement. He told himself Emma probably did not live nearby anymore. He knew almost nothing about her life now, and that had been deliberate. Their breakup had not involved betrayal or shouting. Somehow, that had made it harder. They had simply reached a point where every conversation about the future became another reminder that they wanted different things. Emma wanted to leave the city, start somewhere new, and build a life that felt less predictable. Daniel had just opened his repair business and could barely imagine leaving for a weekend. She had cried when she ended it. He had let her go. Clara's apartment was on the 3rd floor of a narrow building above a bakery. When she opened the door, her dark hair was twisted into a careless bun, and she wore an oversized gray sweatshirt and mismatched socks. "You came. You said the sink was planning a crime." She laughed, but relief quickly disappeared from her face. Kitchen. Water had spread across the tiles in a shallow shining sheet. Daniel rolled up his sleeves, shut off the valve, and crouched beneath the cabinet. Clara handed him towels without being asked. For several minutes, they worked in silence. "You still hate pipes?" she asked. "I don't hate pipes. I hate people who pour things into them." That sounded personal. "It usually is." She laughed again, and Daniel was surprised by how familiar the sound felt. 20 minutes later, the leak stopped. He tightened the damaged connection, wiped his hands on a rag, and stood there. "Temporary fix. You'll need the worn part replaced tomorrow." Clara stared at the sink. "Thank you," she said softly. "You're welcome." Daniel picked up his toolbox. "Don't leave yet." Something in her voice stopped him. He looked at her. "Is something else broken?" She crossed her arms, then uncrossed them. "Maybe." Daniel waited. Clara walked to the living room and returned with a wooden frame. Inside was an old photograph from a summer picnic, their mother laughing, Clara as a teenager, Emma leaning against a tree, and Daniel standing beside her with his arm around her shoulders. Daniel's smile disappeared. "Why are you showing me this?" Clara turned the frame around. The back had been removed. Behind the photograph was a folded envelope. Daniel recognized the handwriting immediately. Emma's. His chest tightened. "What is this?" Clara swallowed. "She gave it to me almost 2 years ago." "Why?" "She told me to give it to you only if she couldn't." Daniel stared at her. "Couldn't what?" Clara looked toward the window, where rain crawled down the glass. Tell you herself. A cold uneasiness moved through him. Where is Emma? She's coming back tonight. Daniel's grip tightened around the toolbox handle. Back from where? Clara closed her eyes briefly. Vancouver. He almost laughed, but no sound came. You knew where she was. Not at first. She asked me not to tell anyone. Not even Mom. And now. She called me yesterday. Daniel put the toolbox down. Clara handed him the envelope. He did not take it. If she's coming back, why does this exist? Because she was afraid she might lose her nerve. The room seemed suddenly smaller. Daniel finally took the envelope, but he did not open it. Clara, what is going on? She left because she thought staying would make you resent her. That was her decision. I know. No, you don't. His voice rose before he could stop it. I spent 3 years thinking she stopped loving me. Do you understand that? Clara flinched. Daniel immediately regretted it. She looked down. I know more than you think. Silence stretched between them. Then Clara said, read it. His fingers shook as he opened the envelope. Daniel. If you are reading this, then I was not brave enough to say these things when I should have. He stopped. Clara moved to the kitchen and gave him space. The letter was several pages long. Emma wrote that leaving had not been about falling out of love. It had been about fear. Every time Daniel spoke about the business, the house they might someday buy, the life they could build, she felt happiness mixed with panic. She had spent years caring for everyone around her, helping Clara through college, supporting their mother after their father died, organizing family problems before anyone asked. She loved Daniel deeply, but she had begun to wonder whether she knew who she was when no one needed her. So she left. She took a job in Vancouver and promised herself she would learn how to make choices without measuring every consequence against another person's expectations. At the end, she wrote one sentence twice. I never wanted you to wait for me. Daniel lowered the letter. Clara was standing near the sink, twisting the edge of a towel between her fingers. She never contacted me, he said. She wanted to. A lot. Then why didn't she? Because every year made it harder. Daniel sat on the couch. Anger came first, but beneath it was something worse, the realization that he had never stopped loving her. He had simply built a life around the empty space and called it moving on. A car door slammed outside. Clara looked toward the window. Daniel stood. Headlights reflected across the wet street. No, he whispered. Clara touched his arm. You can leave if you want. He looked at the door. For 3 years, he had imagined this moment in 100 different ways. In some versions, he demanded answers. In others, he acted indifferent. In none of them had he been standing in a stranger's borrowed sweatshirt with wet socks visible beside a repaired sink. The key turned in the lock. Daniel's heart began pounding. The door opened. Emma stepped inside. She looked older, though not in the way he expected. Her hair was shorter, falling just above her shoulders. She wore a dark blue coat damp from the rain and carried one small suitcase. For 1 second, she did not notice him. Then she did. Everything stopped. Daniel. His name sounded like a memory in her voice. He could not answer. Clara quietly moved away, disappearing into the hallway. Emma set down her suitcase. I didn't know you'd be here. That makes one of us. Her eyes fell to the letter in his hand. Oh. You wrote this 2 years ago. Emma nodded. You knew Clara might give it to me. I hoped she wouldn't have to. Daniel laughed bitterly. That's comforting. I know. No, Emma. You keep saying that. She looked at him, and tears gathered immediately. Because there isn't a sentence good enough to fix what I did. Daniel wanted to remain angry. It would have been easier. Instead, he asked, did you love me when you left? Emma closed her eyes. Yes. Do you love me now? The question hung between them. I never stopped. He looked away. Outside, thunder rolled somewhere beyond the buildings. Emma stepped closer but stopped before touching him. That doesn't mean you owe me anything. Then why come back? Because I finally understood something. Her voice trembled. I spent years believing that choosing myself meant leaving everyone behind. It doesn't. Sometimes choosing yourself means being honest about what you want, even when you're terrified someone might say no. Daniel said nothing. I don't expect our old life back, she continued. I don't even know if we could build something new. But I couldn't keep pretending you were just someone I used to know. He studied her face. Why tonight? Emma glanced toward Clara. Mom is selling the old house. Daniel frowned. The house we always talked about. Emma nodded. Clara told me. I realized the place was never what I missed. What did you miss? You. The word broke something open inside him. But Daniel did not move. 3 years of silence could not disappear because one person had finally found the right words. You hurt me, he said. I know. You made a choice for both of us. I know. I would have supported you. Emma's tears fell. That's what scares me most. I think I knew you would. He frowned. If you had asked me to stay, I would have, she said. And someday I might have blamed you for a decision that was mine. I was too confused to understand that then. Daniel sat again. Emma slowly sat across from him. For a long time, neither spoke. Then Clara appeared with 3 mugs of tea and said, I'm not saying you should forgive her, but I did make tea, and it's getting cold. Daniel stared at her. Emma let out a shaky laugh. For the first time that night, Daniel laughed too. It was small, but real. They talked until the rain stopped. Not about getting back together. Not yet. They talked about Vancouver, about Daniel's business, about Clara's disastrous dating history, and about Emma's first job in a bookstore where she had accidentally locked herself inside after closing. Sometimes they laughed. Sometimes silence returned. But now it was not the silence of strangers. It was the silence of people finally allowing old wounds to breathe. Near dawn, Emma picked up her suitcase. I should go to Mom's. Daniel nodded. She reached the door, then paused. I'm sorry, she said. Daniel looked at the repaired sink. Don't leave yet. Emma turned. Clara covered her mouth, pretending to cough. Daniel walked toward Emma. I'm not promising anything, he said. I'm not asking you to. But maybe coffee tomorrow. Her face softened. Tomorrow. Tomorrow. She smiled through tears. And for the first time in years, Daniel understood that some endings are not mistakes. Sometimes they are painful pauses between the people we were and the people we still have time to become. Before you go, tell us in the comments, do you believe someone deserves a second chance when they leave for the wrong reasons but return with honesty? Have you ever had a conversation that changed how you understood the past? We would truly love to hear your story. Daniel watched Emma walk down the stairs, then looked back at Clara. You planned this? Clara smiled. I called you because my sink was broken. Only that. She glanced at the dry kitchen floor. Well, that and maybe because some things are worth fixing before they overflow. Daniel shook his head. The next morning, he replaced the damaged pipe. The day after that, he met Emma for coffee. They did not return to the life they had lost. They built something slower, more honest, and stronger because neither of them was pretending anymore. And Daniel never forgot the lesson hidden inside that flooded kitchen: love cannot survive on silence, and fear should never be allowed to make every decision for us. If this story touched your heart, please like the video and subscribe for more inspiring stories about kindness, hope, courage, compassion, and humanity. Sometimes all it takes is one unexpected call, one repaired crack, and one person saying, "Don't leave yet," to remind us that the most important things in life may still be waiting on the other side of an open door.